Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining me here today. We are going to be doing what I will call a nervous system wind down. So I've been noticing at this time of year and generally throughout the summer, people have trouble sleeping. The sun is still pretty high in the sky often at bedtime, and even the change of the season can leave us feeling a little unsettled. I know a lot of people that I know have been complaining about very broken or restless sleep lately. So this practice is designed to be something that you can do before you go to bed to kind of bring the energy down and slide into sleep, although any relaxing practice works kind of at any time during the day because your body gets better at relaxing with practice. So obviously it's an active relaxation. We're going to do some movement. We're starting standing. We'll do a bunch of circular and rocking movements. That's supposed to be quite soothing for our nervous system. And like I said, should help us slide more easily into sleep tonight. So let's go ahead and get started, as I said, standing, or of course if you prefer, seated. We usually start in our mountain pose at the beginning of a yoga movement practice. So that might mean squeezing the shoulders up to the ears. Take a big breath in, and then relaxing those shoulders down and back. Maybe put a little bounce in the knees or a little shake in the arms and elbows to release some of the stress of our day. And we'll take a moment to tune in with how we're doing. Of course, you may like to close your eyes here. A little scan head to toe, seeing what's going on and acknowledging that if we're not feeling how we would ideally like to feel at this moment, that's okay, and it's probably in response to something we're thinking about or something that's happened to us. And then whatever we're noticing, we might like to name it, or in your mind, put it into a sentence to describe it. To call this using our powers of observation. So we're just observing, we don't need to be critical or make any decisions right now. Practicing, noticing what's going on. And when we're ready, eyes open or closed, we'll start our usual circle sweep. Inhaling, sweeping arms overhead, and then exhaling, hands down through heart center. And maybe we're using a little bit more muscular tension than we think is necessary. So if you notice that you're just kind of limply flopping through this practice, let's really engage our muscles here. Extend those fingertips down, shoulder blades down, and we reach up overhead, get a little taller. And let's do this to 110%. Really squeeze your muscles as much as you can. And then let's soften slightly from there. So we're engaged, we're active, but we're not overdoing it. So we can be soft and strong. And we'll add on, let's throw in a chair pose here. Sitting our hips down and back. And if you have had a rather warm day, summer is upon us, one way to modify this is simply not sitting so low. The body needs to cool in order to prepare for sleep. So we will move our body through a range of motion to just get our muscles ready to go, our blood pumping, the various fluids of our body, lubricating our joints. But we don't want to overheat ourselves before bedtime. So let's just do one more here. Let's pause at the bottom. Take the opportunity to tune in with our feet, wiggling our toes, spreading them out, noticing the earth beneath us, supporting us, holding us up. And then we'll come back to standing, big reach up overhead, and bring hands through heart center. Let's go ahead and walk to the back of our mats. We'll do a little Tai Chi inspired movement today, and we'll do something that is called walking. It is loosely Tai Chi inspired, so it is not going to be very traditional Tai Chi. If you've done this with me before, you know I generally throw most of the rules out the window. All right, so we're gonna take a big breath in as we draw our hands up. The knee is gonna come with it, and we're gonna step forward and push. And then we reverse, and we do it on the other side. So let's go in a comfortable speed, comfortable range of motion. So we're moving, we're still warming up our hips so that we can get some good hip stretches towards the end, but we're not overheating our bodies. And then let's notice what feels comfortable. So we might like the feet a little bit wider than hip width apart. That's more comfortable for some of us. And usually Tai Chi stuff is done with the back foot flat, as you can see. I actually find that really uncomfortable, so I just do a little lift in the heel. And let's see if we can flow like water here, picturing ourselves like a river, tumbling over rocks and boulders with a certain rhythm and fluidity. So once you have the hang of it, get it in your body, add your own style. Please do not do exactly as I'm doing at the exact speed if it doesn't feel right. And remember what we did with our bodies before we went to 110%. Let's do the same thing with our hands now here. Really spread the fingers wide, completely engaging all the muscles in our hands. Stretch them on out. And then we're going to soften slightly from there. Relaxing our hands down to our fingertips. And let's see, the next time one foot is forward, we'll take a bigger step. We're going to land in a warrior one. So let's see if we can take a bigger step forward. Doesn't matter right or left. Get a little bit braver with our balance and our step, and then we can kind of inch forward and back. We'll flatten the back foot down, maybe feeling a little bit of a stretch in the calf or the outside of the ankle. And our traditional warrior one, we can reach the arms up, or we can take the hands in behind the head, let the elbows open slightly, and relax the weight of the head back into the hands, just a touch. We'll hold here for a couple more rounds of breath. And let's reach those arms up overhead, give it a good stretch. We'll release our hands back down, and we're going to step to the back of the mat. So it's probably going to take us more than one step since we did a pretty deep stance, and we're ready for the other side. Big breath in, stepping forward, strong yet gentle, readjusting, and we're ready for warrior one arms. Let's keep it comfortable, right? So some of us maybe have had shoulder injuries, shoulder surgery, but one option is to take the hands behind the head. And if the hands don't go all the way there, we can just take our fingertips towards our shoulders, lift the elbows up and back in whatever range of motion is possible and that you feel is beneficial for you tonight. It might feel nice and peaceful to lift the chin and close the eyes. Sometimes, of course, that throws the balance off, and we will do a couple things tonight that may play with your balance, challenge your balance, or even a little bit of dizziness. So if ever that happens, generally looking straight forward with the head up is the easiest cure. And I know some of my participants like to practice always near a chair or a wall, just in case. All right, we are ready to step back. Let's take our big stretch up. We'll let this go. We're ready to come not only to the back of the mat, but again, let's step so you can face me. We'll keep going with our circular movements, so let's give a few more shoulder rolls. Loosen it up. Maybe we're doing one at a time. Maybe we're matching it with our breathing. Inhale up, exhale down. And one that we don't do as often is to roll shoulders forward, often in an attempt to have good posture. These muscles in here that pull back get, I don't want to say overworked, but a little overworked. They get a bit strained. So rolling forward can be a nice way to balance that out. Loosen that up. And then we'll end in our good posture, our mountain pose, shoulders down and back, palms forward. And let's reach more back. An option to hold the palms open or to interlace in behind. This is our first chest expansion of the day. We might still be feeling a little bit tight. And And we're gonna maintain, hold on to that tall and open position, but we're gonna move our pelvis. And we might like to take our hands on our hips. We're gonna circle the pelvis. Clockwise, counterclockwise, doesn't matter. So we'll loosen up our hips. We're gonna do some triangle pose. And usually in triangle pose, people can be quite tight through the sides of the hips. I'd say the place that people most often notice that they're tight is through the inner thighs or the hamstrings, but also it's more subtle. The muscles in the side of the hip can get tight too. Okay, noticing which direction we're going. Think about it. Go the other direction. Moving more slowly is more conducive to sleep. If by chance you're doing this first thing in the morning, we could be speeding it up. And we'll bring our bodies back through center. A bit more of a challenging one. Let's take our hand to our rib cage and we'll draw a circle with our rib cage if we can. And we haven't done any cat and cow or anything to warm up our rib cage, so it might be feeling a little bit stuck. But let's see how we do. Are we able to get any movement going on in our ribs? Maybe our ribs have never done this kind of movement before, so it might be very small, very subtle. You might find that the rest of your body wants to come with you, and I would actually say that's perfectly fine. We can keep thinking about embodying the power of water, fluid like water. If the rest of the body wants to come with you as you try to move the rib cage, I say go for it. We want that cool summer river washing over us. Notice what direction you're going, and we can go the other direction when you're ready. A different arm position might be more comfortable for you, and maybe we're taking our hands to heart center, or one hand in the front, one hand in the back. We could have the hands open. Sometimes my participants like to put the hands on the hips to see if they can be more mindful of keeping the hips still, and then if the rest of the body wants to move, that's okay too. Okay, let's see if we can get a few more circles for the rib cage in. We're ready to come back through center. Let's be a little bit more stable. We're gonna keep our spines straight for this one. So instead of bending, we're gonna stay straight, and we're gonna have to shift our hips. So let's practice that before we go. Spine is straight, and we're gonna shift the hips. I hope we can see the difference, that I'm not doing a side bend, that I am shifting the hips instead. And you can use your breathing to check. So if we do a side bend and take a breath in, you probably feel a stretch in the ribs, whereas if we just shift the hips and keep the spine straight, we don't feel that same stretch with the breath on the side of the ribs. I hope that makes sense for you. If it doesn't, that's okay. There are lots of different ways to do this. Let's try it the other way. So we can side bend the other way, take a breath, see how it feels in the ribs. Come back through center, try to keep the spine straight. Maybe we're even keeping our hands in front of us to help us figure that out. We're shifting the hips, spine stays straight. Like a side plank, our abs are working. And hopefully as we breathe, we don't feel that same stretch on the top side of the ribs. Okay, let's see if we can put this into practice with our triangle pose. Let's take our right toes towards the right side wall. We'll put everything together. We're gonna circle the hips, and then we're gonna push the hips all the way over. Maybe we feel that loosening up through the outside of the hip. We're pushing the hip, and we're gonna keep our spine straight as we go, maybe just hand to hip. We're not doing the longest or deepest triangle pose in the world. And let's bring that circling movement back into our body. We're loosening up, maybe feeling it across the chest and shoulder, maybe down the length of the arm. And if you do a lot of triangle pose, yeah, we might be much further down, but I would say we want to have a little bit of strength here so that we're not just wilting and toppling over. And then by doing that, we can still have some focus on the upper body, loosening up. I promise you we will do some more stretches afterwards to get a good stretch benefit for the lower body. All right, our next circle is going to come in, around, and behind. Let's drape that left arm towards our right back pocket. And it might feel good to look down and then look up to loosen any tension in the neck. We could also press the tongue against the roof of the mouth to support our neck muscles. And let's use our core We're gonna bring it all the way back up. And let's pivot to the other side. All right? Left toes to the left side wall. Maybe we want to bend and straighten. Loosen it up. We can take our hips in a circle and then push them out of the way. Keep our spine straight. We're ready for our narrow triangle pose. And one side might feel different than the other. As we know, we might need to reset, readjust, probably hand to thigh here. And our top arm is free. To circle it out. And then let's notice how we're feeling. So this is intended to be soothing, right? To help us wind down before bed. So notice, are you feeling soothed, agitated, too hot, too bored? And then of course, feel free to modify the movement to feel a way that is conducive to sleep. Our next arm circle, we'll take it all the way up, around, back, and in behind. Let that arm hang. Maybe looking up and down, pressing the tongue to the roof of the mouth. You can also swallow, releasing some tension in the neck and jaw. I always like to use an exhale to come back up to standing because we can squeeze the abs to get there. A little bit more protective for our low back. We can lift up through the pelvic floor as well. Let's go ahead, breathe in, moving up on an exhale. And we're back through center. Beautiful. All right, let's turn the toes out. And like I said, we don't want to produce a lot of heat. So often we do a really wide stance here. We won't go quite so wide. And we're just gonna circle the arms, inhaling up, and then exhaling, a little drop down. So we'll do a little bit of warrior two and some movements to release emotion or move energy. And then we'll cool it right down. All right, last one here. And then we can release our hands again to our hips. And let's come into a similar position to what we just did. So we'll turn right toes to the right side wall. Coming into a variation of warrior two. So our back foot is flat. We might want to take a look at it. Strong through our leg muscles. Let's do that thing we've been doing. Really tighten to 110% through the lower body. And then soften slightly from there. We're gonna go like this. So our movement to kind of get rid of our emotions, we're gonna push out with a deep breath out. And then to bring some softness in, as we inhale, we'll circle the wrists. All right, at your own pace, your own comfortable speed for breathing. Inhale. And again, inhale, we circle. And let it go. Any aggression from the day, acting it out here. You might like to make more of an aggressive sound, like a as we go. There's also lion's breath. We can stick the tongue out as we go. Okay, last one here. We don't want to create too much heat. And let's add our side stretch. So we'll take right to right, and then a long reach here for side angle pose. And we're still shifting our hips out of the way so that we can keep our spine pretty long. Maybe we're taking bicep over ear. And again, let's use an exhale to come up to standing. Draw the core up and in, and we are ready for our other side. Here we go. We pivot. We circle those wrists. If we think about which direction we go naturally, let's think about going the opposite direction. I hope we can keep that straight as we inhale. And then exhale. Some days we need this more than others. And like I said, go at your own speed. Some people like to do a really long exhale. Some people like to do a really quick inhale. So go with what feels like a good emotional release. You may also find, of course, that it gets to be too many and it feels better just to hold warrior two in a more stable, peaceful position. If we can, let's keep going. A few more. Gotta make it match like the other side. Okay, last one. Beautiful. We'll come back through center. We can turn, our side angle. Left to left, big long stretch. We'll come back through. Let's use that core. Walk the feet in. So we'll do a little something to bring our energy and our heart rate down. A little bit more Tai Chi inspired breathing. Instead of our big circle sweeps, we'll bring the hands up and down like this. And this is a nice alternative to our really big yoga movements. Like I said, doesn't produce nearly as much heat in the body. And I'll give us one more option if you would like. Again, this idea of like releasing our emotions. Some people like to drop the heels, and then it gives us a real bounce or vibration through the rest of the body. If you are doing it at home, feel free. You can make a lot of noise with it, obviously for the purposes of recording. I'm trying not to slap my heels too much on the yoga mat. Maybe we're counting a certain number of breaths, 5 in, and then 5 pulses as we breathe out. 5 heel drops up and 5 heel drops down. Okay, last one here. And let's give the arms a gentle swing. Got another opportunity to loosen up. And let's take our feet wide one more time. We're gonna come into bat pose, and this is gonna take us all the way down to the mat. So bat pose is one pose that is designed to give us a fresh perspective. So it's a little bit of an inversion. We will reach down towards the floor, and we can think of this as a fresh perspective. How could we see our day differently? How could we approach our thoughts differently? How could we have a fresh perspective, turning the world upside down? We'll take a big breath and open out. We can leave our hands in behind as we did before, or interlace. Feel free to bend our knees. We can come halfway down. We're still extending and reaching those bat wings in behind us. And then maybe we like to come all the way down for bat pose. We of course do have the option to put our hands on the floor, but let's keep this idea of perspective going. Can we turn our thoughts upside down? Can we see things in a different way? Feel free to stay a little longer if you love this pose. Otherwise, we'll take our hands down. I'm going to turn sides so you can see me. I'm going to walk my hands to the short edge of the mat. And then yogi's choice, we can step back, downward dog or child's pose. And both down dog and child's are nice to have some contact with the floor, to bring our bodies down, can help bring our energy down. And we may like to rest the forehead either on the mat or on a block. Instead of having our head kind of hanging out in space if we're up really high, having something to plant underneath the forehead can feel, like I said, more soothing to the nervous system. So we might like to do that. And it can be the high height or the low height, right? So maybe we're feeling like we're not gonna get all the way down to the mat. We could have our hips off our heels and the block on a higher height. We can still rest the forehead and maybe even be more on the forearms. So our body position is more like a road cyclist, a little bit more athletic instead of being on the mat, but we get that soothing ability to drop the forehead and even turn the head side to side, let the head be heavy, and massage the forehead on the block. So we're using gravity here to get a forehead massage. when we're ready, we can put the block off to the side if we have one. And then it'll give us the option to do cat and cow. We might like to do cat and cow on all fours. Or for tonight, maybe a little different, we can do it in a seated position, sitting on our heels or sitting cross-legged. It's up to you. I will sit on the block and join you this way. So we can tuck our tails, tuck our chins, reach forward into cat, and then we're coming back into that heart opener position as we're lifting our chest into cow. We'll go through a few more times here. And this last one, as we reach back, we might like to interlace the fingers. And it is supposed to send the message to our brains to feel very peaceful if we lift the chin a little bit and then close the eyes. The head lifting inspires positive, optimistic feelings, and the eyes closed is supposed to bring a sense of calm and peace. That may not be true for you, so see how it feels when you actually do it. Wherever we are, we can take one more breath. We'll go ahead and release. Coming back through center. And some of these might not be quite as comfortable if you are sitting on a block or a cushion, so feel free to take it out as needed and put it back as needed. We'll do a little bit of spinning top. So this one can produce heat in the body if you do it 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 8 minutes. We're only going to do it a few times each way, again, to give us this idea of soothing, circling movements. So we'll circle the body one way a few times, and the other way a few times. And somewhere in there, you might find there's a spot that's kind of tight. You want to move more slowly. I would encourage you, let's move more slowly through that spot. We'll do a longer side body stretch now that we're down here. So let's do just one more slow, juicy circle. Maybe the head wants to move too. Our body's like a river, flowing and moving, and then we're ready to go the other direction. Come back through center. And let's do a side stretch here. So we'll hold that side position, and this time we can bend our spines up and over. If it doesn't feel so hot with this conventional arm up over the head, we can take the hand in behind the head, drape the arm back, hand to the shoulder. But I would say there is benefit to this idea of like kind of pulling open the underarm. If we do reach the elbow back, or opening the underarm with the arm up overhead. Again, we might like to turn the head down or up, swallow or press the tongue to the roof of the mouth. And let's take a couple more breaths in to increase the stretch through the side of the rib cage. Continuing to draw shoulder down and back. We're ready to switch it up for the other side, aren't we? All right, a little bit of core strength to come up through center. Sometimes the arm likes a little bit of a shake, kind of like it's an elephant's trunk. Sway it back and forth, and then we're ready for the other side. Long reach, stretching out the side of the waist. Any arm position is perfectly good. Look up, look down, swallow, tongue to the roof of the mouth. Eyes could be opened or closed. Imagining the arm is getting longer, shoulder pulls down, but fingertips reach away. Imagining we're stretching the neck long, one more breath in. And we can come back through center. And let's take our head in a circle. So I'll show us the more gentle variation that still releases, but is less likely to strain the neck or give us any dizziness, and I think everybody can benefit. We simply draw a circle with the nose. So we could stay here, gentle loosening of the neck. And then some of us will make like these more typical neck rolls, side to side. And ideally we keep the movement usually isolated in the neck. Although if we want to work on this theme of flowing like water, maybe the body wants to go a little bit with it, that'd be okay. And if we're circling the nose, make sure we circle both directions. If we're taking the head side to side, we could be moving more slowly through those tight spots. And at some point, let's come back through center. And we'll do something too, again, like the heel drops and the breath work that we did. Let's do something that's designed to kind of disrupt our nervous system or our thought patterns or our breathing patterns. We'll make butterfly hands, or eagle mudra, I've heard it called, across our chest. And we'll tap one side and the other. And let's bring awareness to our heart with our breath here. We might like to close the eyes. And we can focus our minds on the pressure of one thumb touching the other. We can focus on the feeling of our fingertips tapping. Maybe imagining or sensing the feeling of our heartbeat. And at any time throughout any yoga practice, we can always bring the awareness back to heart center, noticing our breath. We can keep the hands moving or bring them into stillness. When we're ready, let's go ahead and open the eyes. We'll release the arms. And this one is not very easy if we have a block in the way. We're going to windshield wipe the legs. So maybe take the block out of the way. We'll loosen up the hips. And if this is not possible for you in a seated position, we're going to lie down in a second so we can do it there as well. All right, we'll bring the legs to rest. And let's go ahead and meet lying on our backs on our mats. Once we're on our backs, let's go back right where we just came from, and we'll windshield wipe our legs side to side. I'll give us two variations for this one. So we can do it really loose and let the legs flop side to side. Really floppy, overcooked spaghetti, or this one can be kind of a nice variation if you feel like you need a bit more strength in the back, or if the loose variation doesn't feel good. As the knees drop to the right, press firmly into the left heel so that we can squeeze the left side of the bum, and that should activate the muscles through your glutes and through your back muscles to support stability. So the same thing on the other side. We drop left, press firmly into the right, engage, squeeze the right side of your bum, and then we can take it side to side like that. Press and lift, press and lift. Might also be a nice increase in the stretch through our hip flexors in the front of the hip. And then we're ready to come into stillness. We'll get back into these circling movements. So let's take right ankle over left thigh. And we'll circle the ankle. We can wiggle the toes. We can take it one direction and the other. And at this point, I would say, as much as is possible, feel free to close the eyes. And that, of course, helps us to be calmer, moving more in a sleepy direction. You might even like an eye pillow or something like that towards the end of any yoga practice. And we'll switch ankles. And yes, of course, if you find that closing the eyes is not relaxing, you have trouble following the class, you feel disoriented, yes, you are the boss of your own eyelids. Open or closed, yogi's choice. And we'll keep loosening up our hips. We'll do a butterfly flow here, or butterfly and moth technically. So our knees are up, and then our knees are open. Knees are up, knees are open. For some of us, it might feel good to do the same thing with our arms. So almost like we're getting ready to do crunches with the arms. We can take our fingers beside the head, around the ears. We can close and open. So we can squeeze the muscles of the chest and then relax them as we open out. And we're going to finish in the open position. So ideally, we'll get more of a stretch or more of a release if we come up to the top and squeeze. So we can squeeze the knees together and squeeze the elbows towards one another at the top. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. And then we'll release and open out into what we could call a double diamond pose. So diamond with the legs, diamond with the arms. Feel free to readjust the arms and legs as necessary. Some of us might like to take the hands behind the head or up above the head. And we'll bring our awareness back to our breath, maybe inhaling for a count of 5 and exhaling for a count of 5. Option here for a starfish pose. Opening the legs, opening the arms, of making our bodies into an X. And if we like the water imagery, we can imagine that we are lying on a giant floaty, meandering our way down a lazy stream. Might feel nice to invite that feeling of floating into the body. Feeling safe and warm. With our inhale, feeling light and lifted. And with our exhale, allowing our body weight to rest into the floor. So we can encourage this feeling of floating in the body, but we're still feeling supported from below. So this pose will help us cool down, and the water imagery may help us to relax. But let's scan the body head to toe. Notice if we're still holding on to any tension. And at this point, you may feel like you're ready for another stretch or two. So we can lie here for another moment, checking in, noticing how we're feeling. Maybe moving through some range of motion in our joints to test out where we may be feeling tight. And then maybe we're ready for what are some usual fan favorites? A happy baby. There's another way we could rock side to side. We could even do a twist one side and the other, again rocking our bodies into our twist. Maybe lifting into a bridge or anything else. And then I'll let you know our final pose for today will actually be baby pose. So we might like to take that block back under our head or an arm. And I will suggest, as long as it's comfortable, the left nostril should be on top. So we're lying on the right side of the body. So take your time finishing up any final stretches, letting out any final fidgets, maybe letting out a sigh, maybe another lion's breath. Let it go. Might be doing, again, more range of motion in the joints, but then when we're ready, we're coming to lie on the right side. Again, eyes can be closed. And no matter where we are, let's see if we can encourage our breath to become deeper, fuller, more effortless. And a long exhale. Just like that lazy river, inviting a slow, unhurried breath in. And if we stretch out that exhale to be longer than our inhale, it might help us with more of a drowsy feeling, getting us ready for sleep. So you might be here with me already now. So we're lying on the right side with the left nostril to the top, and this is actually supposed to help us fall asleep. So if you were doing this as a morning practice, you could have the right nostril on top instead. It helps us digest as well to have the right nostril on top, so you might like this one for an afternoon practice to help digest a big lunch, and then the right nostril on top. If you lie for maybe 20 minutes, it's supposed to help you boost your energy. But since we're trying to cruise right into sleep, we're trying to land the plane, let's have the left nostril on top. So we're lying on the right side of the body. And you may feel your nostril dominant switch. You may feel that it has an impact. You may not. And that's all okay. We're going to finish the same way we started, practicing our powers of observation, scanning body, mind, and spirit. And then you may like to pick a word or a sentence in our own mind describing how we're feeling. Feel free to stay here as long as you like, focusing on easy breathing, building your powers of observation. We are done. Thank you so much for joining me here tonight. I wish you a restful night's sleep.